All right. Sometimes codes and regulations can't keep up with the technology that's moving so fast. Our next speaker is Chris Towski, a lieutenant with the City of Cambridge Fire Department, with over 28 years of service. His current position is with the Emergency Preparedness and Coordination as an extension of the Fire Prevention Office. He spent over 12 years directly with the Fire Prevention Office. He's also a Massachusetts licensed electrician and has been the department's electrical safety officer for almost 16 years. He also instructs for the National Fire Protection Association with their photovoltaic and battery energy storage systems training. He's a technical committee member representing the International Association of Firefighters on the NFPA, including stationary energy storage systems. He is a standards technical panel member for United Laboratories. In addition, he is currently the immediate past president of the Fire Prevention Association of Massachusetts, a partner with the Construction Fire Safety Coalition, and an AHJ member of the Society of Fire Protection Engineers New England chapter. He has presented at several NFPA conferences, the Congressional Fire Service Institute, and many other locations, and is published in Firehouse Magazine. To discuss the code environment and challenges with lithium-ion batteries, please welcome Chris Towski.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. So this is me. I'm going to pull out some books I want to show too. So anybody ever hear of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? That's me. So, but thank you. Good morning again. So I have 15 minutes to try to summarize 7 years of the last 7 years of some hard work with committees. One thing I just wanted to bring out first and foremost is on the NFPA. We all know who the NFPA is, but the NFPA does not write codes and standards. You and I write codes and standards. So just keep that as an option. If you want to make a difference out there, reach out, get an application in, and you can get, pick a standard that you like. You can make, do your part to make a difference. So that's me. Bye-bye. So not everything, first and foremost, this is going to be my opinions, perspectives. We all have a little bit of that, but this is my own commentary here. No way we're going to be able to cover everything. More questions and answers, because that's what the code world does for us. And nothing is intended to start fights. Okay? We good with that? Can you hear me okay? You can hear me at Chelsea, right? I'm just a loud person, so forgive me for that. I like to move around the room and try to stay out of the blinding light. I think you got to advance me through this one. For some reason, it gets hung up on this. And there you go. There goes 5 minutes of my valuable time. Okay. So there's no central location really for finding info. And forgive me, I wish this was in front so I didn't have to turn my back on you. And I'm trying not to kill you with PowerPoint. Technology is way ahead of us. I'm a little bit battery saturated, but that's only because I've been doing this for the last, like I said, 7 years. But the good news is word is spreading. So codes, by no means are they perfect or are they as accurate as we like them to be. Keep in mind, Massachusetts, we're doing a great job here. We're far ahead than in other parts of the country and certainly other parts of the world. But we're still lagging behind. And even though like now we might be looking at the 2024 NFPA 1 for our standard, that was written 3 years ago. So the prep work on it, by the time it comes into fruition, it's already 4 or 5 years behind us. And technology is in hyperspeed, way ahead of us. So like I said, it's written by us, not by organizations. They're developed as a consensus. Kid you not, we get into so many debates just arguing over a number. Hey, Todd, what number do you like? I like 10. What do you like? I like 6. All right, let's go with 8. That's how a lot of things get done out there. Like I said, the drafted years are before, and the adoption process is slow. Fortunately for us, and I got to say that to the bosses over there, but Mass is ahead of the curve because we are ahead of it. This is what code's intended to look like. This is how we'd love it to be, but this is what it's like in the real world. So I'm glad we got some humor because we really do. It's a really serious subject, especially because batteries and stuff are hurting people, but we got to, hopefully keep some humor in it. But that's what code is. It's spaghetti on the wall to a lot of people. A lot of folks on us, being nerd, I consider myself a code nerd. We know the code, but the people certainly out in the streets don't. So because of numerous incidents that have been taking place globally, certainly outside of this country and in this country, and we've had some recent ones. Idaho just had one. Martinique just had a lot. I heard the term large energy storage. I think we just got to focus and call it just stationary energy storage because there's really no delineate of what is small and what is large. We have our residential stuff, and then we have stationary energy storage. So what the California Energy Alliance, back in 2016, they recognized that there was a gap. So they pulled the NFPA's Fire Protection Research Foundation together and other organizations to come up with something. And they reached out to the NFPA and said, listen, you're a publisher for us. Can you do something? So they put a technical committee together. And when we were formed, they gave us a number, just like you might know the electrical code is 70, NFPA 1 is our fire code, yada, yada, yada. They put 855 together. So I'm one of the first original cast members of that, of that group. We were only about 36 members at the time. We're now about 72 members. We've doubled because there's so much special interest and there's so many stakeholders involved. Fire service is represented uniformly, but we're low in numbers. There's only about a half a dozen of us representing the fire service. Outside of that, it's industry, manufacturers, end users, and stuff like that. We were modeled to go after 853, which was for fuel cells. Once we got a hold of that, we went a total different direction for our standard because fuel cells just wasn't the same arena as we were in. Development got delayed 18 months because the utilities still today don't think this applies to them. But the NFPA Standards Council proved them wrong, if you will, and it does apply. But that's probably going to be some of your bigger hurdles in some of your communities is working with the utility side. And regulations, they're just minimal safety collective measures. And it's just the minimal standards. Other people can always go above and beyond code. We know in our world that people don't like to do that because it usually costs them money. But outside of that, they can always go above. So we're just trying to set the minimum standards. All right, folks, ready? Follow the bouncing ball with me. You ever remember that as a kid, trying to watch the song line? Because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So NFPA 1, the 2003, always had a placeholder for batteries. Always had something. It was just called stationary lead-acid batteries. That carried through the 2006 edition and the 2009. I think I have it another slide here, but we never batted an eye. We never looked at any of that stuff. 2012, it changed the name to stationary storage, and that carried through the 2015 edition. 2018 edition, which we never saw here in Mass, but it changed the name. That was the first time it changed the name to energy storage systems. And in 2020, the first edition of NFPA 855 came out. 2023, the second edition, because they were on a 3-year cycle, very similar to the fire code. And now we're working, I just came back from Salt Lake City, we're working on the 26th edition. Tons of annex material. So we have a tendency to rely heavily on what's on the body of the code, but keep an eye on what's going on in the annex, because a lot of it tells you what we were thinking. On the IBC, the International Building Code side, International Fire Code carried. So as we were developing in 2016-17 to get to 855, we had some committee members that also worked for the ICC, and they were taking that same language. So in 2018, Section 1206 of the International Fire Code was done. It mirrors 855. But Massachusetts, again, didn't do anything with on the building code side with the 2018 editions. So we never got to see those. The residential code did the same thing, 2021, and you can see it's kind of reading the same way. What the fire code does, the International Fire Code, not Massachusetts Fire Code, it mirrors what's going on with what we're doing on the fire code side, okay? There's going to be a significant change in the IBC for 2024. They're just going to do what we did in NFPA 1, the latest edition of NFPA 1 now just points fingers to 855 instead of having all its other verbiage. The IBC world's going to do the same thing. They're just going to point to 855. All right, here's what we did in Mass. Mass, we adopted the 2012 and the 2015 NFPA 1s. And like I said, nobody balked at Chapter 52. It wasn't a problem because all we really talked about was lead-acid batteries. Lead-acid batteries aren't a general problem for us. Yes, there's hydrogen, but they don't. Something else gets those caught on fire. Not just those batteries don't just cause fire. So we didn't have any hiccups. What Mass did though is they extracted some language out of the 2018. Even though we didn't adopt the whole 2018 NFPA 1, they extracted certain chapters, and Chapter 52 will come out because it was a little bit better bang for the buck. There were 2 significant changes that Mass did. We included a permit, and we included some language for 1 and 2 family, because since we didn't adopt 855, which has Chapter 15 for 1 and 2 families, we had nothing, so Mass was in the progressive mode to do that. And we had 2 guidance documents that come out in May or June of 2021. You've probably seen, and they caused a lot of controversy and opinion. Let's not lose focus, folks. Those are just hovering in on what we're seeing on the 1 and 2 families, the Generacs and the Teslas. We have a much larger picture out there. And then I just used the word larger, but on the energy storage, the stationary stuff, because that stuff's in your backyards and you don't even know it's there. My opinion. Evolution of UL. So as Kevin mentioned, thank you, Marshall. Thank you, Director, for letting me be here. And thank you, folks, for letting me be in front of you. So I'm on the UL standards as well because they thought I'd be a good fit. Believe me, this stuff is over my head. When you get into UL, that's all the science and the engineering behind it. But there's a lot of stuff. So NFPA, yes, is the standard, but it relies heavily on UL standards. And it doesn't have to be a UL standard. Just UL just happens to be the leader in the market. But it could be some other URL out there. But outside of it, it relies heavily on 1642, 73, 74, 41, 9540, and 9540A are the ones that I sit on. 9540 evaluates the entire energy storage system, and 9540A is the redheaded, I got to be careful what I say. It's the elephant in the room, if you will, and that's the thermal runaway aspect, okay? And they're in the 3rd edition of 9540 was just released this summer, and the 5th edition is slated to come out later this year, well, probably next year. So not everything needs to be listed. We get hung up, things listed and labeled. No, you can have unlisted components, but to make up our overall listing, that's how they get there. Other NFPA standards, 68 and 69, they rely heavily on explosion controls and preventions and the electrical code. And those are just some sub-chapters of the electrical code. I believe this will be available. So again, you don't have to study, write things down. In a nutshell, 9540 evaluates the entire safety. 9548 complements 9540 with the, if it's a technology that goes into thermal runaway. Not all batteries go into thermal runaway. Not even all lithium-ion battery technologies go into thermal runaway. But the predominant ones do. And then sadly, they got a stigma to them. They've proven it, though, because they're causing us a lot of problems out there. So what NFPA 855's job is to bridge the gap between those UL standards and to work it out with best practices. And this is probably the toughest thing for us on the fire service to digest. The intentions here is that fire is acceptable. It's just intended to consume itself. And that's what 9540 and 9540A is supposed to tease out. So when there is a mishap, it doesn't leave the box, if you will. For the inspection side of it, all you're trying to do out there is validate the construction documents, what they did through their permit process. I watch for access, if I'm going to do something in the design plan review, because it's important to us. We want to make sure we can physically get to it, whether vehicle or as we walk to it. The emergency response plans and the emergency action plans, you want to make sure those should be on site. Personnel, what they're going to have there, especially on the larger energy storage system facilities. The safety data sheets. Commissioning and decommissioning are important stuff that you want to be mindful of. Big things that are coming into play now with the evolution of 855, there's a lot of emphasis on detection and suppression systems and controlling measures. You want to know how to shut down. It's certainly one thing you got to be careful, especially on the utility side. They're going to have a lot of proprietary info that they're not going to be able to share. There's going to be secret, because if anybody ever got that info, they know how to shut down a utility, and that's one of the things we don't want to happen. And then how you hand it over. Huh? That's for phase 1. I'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you, Chris.
No questions.
I have plenty of questions, but we're going to wait for the round table for you. Like, what did you have for breakfast?